Business Focus with Kudzie, Sharara on the Champions League Breakfast.
Before 8 a.m., welcome to Business Focus. Is all Sharara. Good morning to you, Kudzie. How are you doing today?
Good morning, Patsani, and good morning, everyone.
Thank you so much. You've got questions to do with business. Please feel free to come through on our WhatsApp platform 0719-404 and post your question out to Kudzie, Sharara, to help us. Kudzie, let's begin with the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange trading update for yesterday.
Thank you, Tinashi. So it's a good day for the closing bad day, actually. Closing in the negative territory. That's Wednesday, right? Yeah, it closed in the negative territory after losing 0.82%, and the top 10 index by 1.1. So it's for more than some investors. I'm seeing even inbox in my WhatsApp complaints. I think people went, especially at the beginning of the year, you get into the market expecting the year you could get at least some good returns from the stocks that you would have invested in. But for some stocks, especially the liquid ones that most people invest in, they've been trading like a yo-yo, sort of like sideways, with not much gains being recorded, and going into the it hasn't been for some investors. And yesterday, the biggest loser was Aftis, down by 14.67%. Connect losing 6 points. Seedco down by 1.19%. So losing percent. This is not. Always markets are like this, and you're a long-term investor. You know, it's time to accumulate shares, especially now when some of these companies actually pay dividends. So instead of getting dividends of 100 shares, but because they've been accumulating these shares at much cheaper prices, your dividends will now make sense because you're now getting a dividend of so many. An increased number of shares. So it's, for me, there are some counters where you think, given their fundamentals, when you fundamentals, your elements of that company, and you see that it is doing well, it's actually declaring a dividend. So those counters, when you see them cheap, I think it's a good time to accumulate them. But you know how it is when you go people invest with different objectives. Like I said, anga achitoda mari kutoti by ane mwana ari kuenda form 1 next year. Saka ito ndikatenga mashares kutanga kwegore. Panozonopera gore ndikamatengesa ndaona mari school fees yekutenga my uniform. You know how it is with form 1, especially kana chenda boarding schools, you need a lot of money. So my objectives anenge akasiyana. But as much as the market has been sort of like down or flat throughout the year, there are some people who actually made money. Now you're talking of people who are actively, who watch the market every day, where they will look at the share and say, okay, this counter at this price, it's a bargain. And then during the course of the month or of a certain period, that share goes to its true value. But you know that because of the macroeconomic environment, it's likely to come off again. So you sell at the top, buy low, sell high, buy low, sell high. So they've been actively participating in the market, and they've actually made lots of money because we have seen such counters, especially the most liquid ones, your Deltas, your Econets. People have been buying in and out of those counters because they've been so volatile. So volatility, I love volatility. It allows you to get into the market, get out of the market, get into the market. But it's for active investors. Passive investors are the ones that are crying to Amanaga. Since 2010, the value of these shares is still the same. But since 2010, someone made loads of money because of that.
So, but which counter has been consistent from the beginning of the year up to where we are now?
This year? No, now when you talk of that, now you're looking at the top risers for the year that we've been talking about. You look at your, I think, let me see the ones that we've been talking about that are actually leading in terms of what we call year to date gains. I'm just trying to see if I've got a one that is close by that we can look at. So those counters are the ones that you could say have been consistent, because when you look at their year to date gains, they are significantly high. So I'm not sure what's happening with my phone here so that I can get the numbers.
Okay.
But as I look for that, I also want to speak about, there's a lot of corporate activities that has been happening in the markets as well. For example, on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, National Foods is set to delist from the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. So delisting is like they're getting out of the of the market.
They want to come to ZSE.
No, they will no longer be listed.
Okay.
So And this week they released what is called a circular to investors to give the reasons why they are going to be delisting, and also and obviously people can make their own judgments about the markets. So they are saying that National Foods is got more than 70% of its shareholding is held by two entities, 37.5% by Insco, another 37.5% by Tiger Brands in South Africa. So these are the two major shareholders. So it's tightly held. And then it's also held, I think, more than 9% by Old Mutual, if I'm not mistaken. So again, these are institutional investors that rarely sell. So National Foods on the market, it rarely trades. It's sort of like what they call an illiquid stock. So one, it doesn't benefit from regular trading. It's very illiquid. It doesn't trade that much. And the company is also saying, we have reached our sort of like mature stage. We don't need to raise money. We don't believe, because one of the primary reasons why companies list is that they want to raise capital. And National Foods is saying, no, we don't need money anymore. We don't need to raise money anymore. So we don't see the benefits of remaining listed. So that's again another reason that they've given. So yeah.
Pane kwasina mashareholders here vanhu vanotarisa kuti tete vana mari munational foods imomomo saka paino delist up what will happen of them.
So what they're going to do is to say to all people who hold National Foods shares today, they are offering for every share that you hold, they are offering you $0.71, which is higher than the current trading price. I don't have my price sheet here, but it's higher than the current trading price. And they actually believe it's the true value of the company than what you are seeing on the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. So they are saying for every share that you have, they will give you $0.71. On top of that, they are saying you don't have to sell your shares if you don't want. You can remain a shareholder of this particular company and benefit when it pays dividends. Remember, they are still it's still listed, it still has some shareholders. So they're saying you can also continue to hold your shares, but now you are holding them as a private investor, not a listed investor.
Okay.
So you can continue to hold your shares, but benefiting from the dividends that they pay time and again. And hopefully they will continue with that, with their current dividend policy, where they pay handsomely. In fact, maybe they can actually increase it, because our system costs are associated on being listed. They can now channel them to pay their shareholders. So these are some of the reasons that they are given. But obviously, for the marketers, or when you look at it, to lose a company that was listed, it's a vote of no confidence on the market in some cases.
Yeah.
So that's number one. What is happening in the markets? Number two, Mikkels Limited has been suspended from trading on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, I think for 180 days. And the reason being that, remember, there was a boardroom coup, where some directors wanted to replace the CEO. In fact, they replaced the then CEO by the son of John Moxon, Matthew Moxon. CEO. And then at that time, so John Moxon has come now, who is the major shareholder in Mikkels. I think he has got about 48%, just about 48%. And he has come and said, no, when this AGM was done, the reason why we're doing this meeting was to discuss issues to do. You remember, they want to sell certain of their assets. I think it's their 50% in one of the hotels in Victoria Falls. That's what they wanted to sell. But now that was the agenda. But then the agenda, on that particular day, John Moxon was in hospital after an operation. And then someone told people that, no, don't listen to whatever message is coming from his phone, because it has been hacked. So whatever message, calls, and everything that is coming from John Moxon, it's not him. It's someone who has hacked his phone. So John Moxon has now come back and said, no. What was done was irregular. The removal of the previous CEO, and he's saying, so he's up against his own son, and he has called for an extraordinary general meeting, EGM, to say, to reverse what was done, and also to remove the 4 directors, including the company secretary, who were in that meeting that is resolved. So it's a boardroom battle. And it will be interesting to see who emerges the winner. But already John Moxon has got 48%. If the other shareholders want to reverse it, then they have to drum up support from the other sort of like 50 point something shareholders would vote against what John Moxon wants to do. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah, we're looking forward
also
to
happening
see
on,
what's happening.
on that. Yeah.
All right, let's take a commercial break. When we come back, we discuss more right here on Kapi Talk.
Vandalism of electrical infrastructure affects the reliability of electricity supplies and is a cost to the nation. Let's fight against vandalism and report those doing it on the following toll-free numbers. Econet subscribers 080-805-39. Net 1 subscribers 081-8888. Alternatively, contact our 24-hour National Contact Center on 704. See it, say it, report it. This message is brought to you by the Zimbabwe Electricity Transmission and Distribution Company, ZETDC, a subsidiary of Zesa Holdings.
Business Focus with Kudzie, Sharara on the Champions League breakfast.
10 minutes sub BM is our time. You still have some more corporate news?
Yes. So before we go to the other corporate news, you're asking to say which ones have been consistent throughout the year. So I think Marsh, Unifreight, Art, FBC, BAT, I think those are the top performers so far in the year. Those are the top 5 performers. So still on what's happening on our markets, we spoke about National Foods, which wants to delist from the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. We spoke about Mikus, where again there's been that issue here, boardroom coup. Now also Old Mutual exchange traded fund. So we remember on the markets we have got what we call exchange traded funds, which is a basket of securities that are put together, and in most cases they are meant to track certain the performance of certain counters to track. So the first ever ETF to be listed on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange is the Old Mutual Top 10 Exchange Traded Fund. But however, when it was listed, the likes of National Foods, Insco, Simbisa were on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, and they were part of the top 10 counters that Old Mutual was tracking, right? But they've since moved to the Victoria Falls Stock Exchange. This fund is in quandary because now it's now difficult for them to track the performance of the top 10 index, because some of the counters are on the VFX, some of them are now on the Zimbabwe are still on the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange. So what has been happening is that it's now difficult to track how the counter is performing, and it is resulting in what they call a tracking error, which is make it difficult to replicate the index, and that's increasing the tracking error. So they are saying they want to delist the Old Mutual ETF from the listing. And I think for me, the biggest losers will be those who have got smaller shares, few shares, right? Few shares, not smaller. Few shares. Those I don't think they will benefit, but those with more shares, because those with more shares will be given the underlying assets. For example, they'll just divide some of the shares. Kana vanga vachiona mashares in Delta, in Insco, vane mashares akati one day vanopiwa some of the underlying assets. But those who were owning my fewer shares, they are going to be given money. But nekudona kwakaita market or nepanema levels ema share prices, I think they will be at a disadvantage.
All right, Kudzie, thank you so much for that one. Now we see how it goes. Just it's Thursday, the 28th of November 2024. What to look forward to in today's national budget? What are the stakes like for Minister Professor Mthuli Ncube?
Yeah, the stakes are up against him. I think he has got his work cut out. It's going to be very difficult for him to maneuver. Remember, you're talking about a minister who got requests for funding for the 2025 national budget of 700 billion ZiG. And he only had about 150. That's what he can spend, 150 billion ZiG. So you see, his envelope is way short of the requirements. It's very tight. And he's coming against at a time where, again, what he's collecting, like what we were talking about yesterday, what he's collecting from as in form of taxes continues to dwindle, to come down, especially things like corporate tax, which is significantly lower. A decade ago or 5 years ago, corporate tax was contributing about 19%. Now it's contributing roughly about 11%. So it has significantly come down in terms of corporate tax. The 2% tax, which at some point was contributing about 12%, significantly down again to about 3%. So he's not collecting enough, and we saw it with the failure to pay, alleged failure to pay some salaries, and also the directives to cut on spending. You can see that this is a tight fiscal space. So he has got, his work is cut out. It's going to be very difficult for the minister. It will be interesting to see how he's going to maneuver to come up with a budget that is accepted by all. People are always like, okay, is it a pro-poor budget? And people are like, it's not a pro-poor budget. And then some people will come and say, no, we are taxed to the bone. And again, that's another challenge. So he has to strike a balancing act for the economy. So yeah, that's I don't envy him at the moment.
Yeah, I know you said it's going to be a tight situation for Professor Mthuli Ncube. But Kudzie, what would be a good budget for you?
Yeah, I think for me a good budget is where the tax net is widened. So I'm saying you need to widen the tax base to get more people to contribute to tax. And I think Zimura also has got his work cut out in terms of making sure that whatever aspirations and targets that the minister has, Zimura has to come to the party and exceed those targets.
Let me just hold you there a bit. You said to have more people to pay tax.
More people.
More people,
tax. Yes.
No more taxes.
Yes, exactly. So a bad budget for me will be where there are more taxes in form of saying to Tinashe, who is already contributing to tax, I think for me that would be a bad budget where you're looking at, okay, you've got companies that are already operating, contributing to the fiscus, but okay, let me go and tax them there and get more money. But you're only getting more money from the same people who have already been, like what was the 2% tax was doing to some people, although it had widened the tax base, but it was also burdening other formal taxpayers who were already contributing. So for me, a good budget would be one that widens the tax net, and a bad budget would be one that would increase taxes. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Take it again.
A good budget would be one that widens the tax net, right? To make sure that everybody contributes. Tax bracket.
Yes.
And then a bad one would be one that increases the taxes for those who are already in the bracket, who are already contributing.
Always tax.
I would actually want you are contributor tax who are actually suffering at the moment. Reduce tax you took off 2% tax, maybe you remove or 1%.
So from your thinking, Kudzie, do you think minister is going to somehow introduce find a way of taxing the informal market?
He has to. He has to find a way. I know he has tried several times to do that, and without any success. So I think there is need for, he has to call for a I don't know what you call it, but to have a social contract and get as much help as he can so that everybody, I think it's all about Tinashe making sure that people understand why they pay taxes and also being accountable to people in terms of transparency, in terms of what you use the money for. I think if you do that, I know they've done well in terms of budget transparency, but I think also the optics should be right. If people start to see mashefu achidriver yanetsa mazano yanzirapta yanetsa mazano, if people see mashefu varongotengerwa mota idzedzo vanoona kuti saka isusu tobhadhara vataxi kuti vamwe vanhu vararame luxurious life.
So with that now, what sort of a budget will then cheer up the market?
One that makes sure that the cost of doing business has been reduced, the ease of doing and cost of doing business, including my taxes here, the ease of doing business also has been improved. There are incentives for companies to do better, incentives for companies to employ the youth, the women. Those incentives, I think it will cheer the markets, and also a budget that will make sure that companies are profitable, especially these companies that are already formalized. Let's make it easy for them to be profitable, to also take some profits, not to make life difficult for them, and then they end up not having anything to pay in form of taxes. Then I think that will not be a good budget. And also on the cost of doing businesses, I'm told, or there's a research that is being done by Anasi Zetai, show kuti ma regulatory authorities are to collect more money kupfura treasury. So I think that need to look at that as well, to say, okay, imimi Emma, murumbo collecta mari, murkuiti say, imimi Zera, murumbo collecta mari, murkuiti say, all these other regulatory agencies, government agencies, government departments, Maria Mafiza, Murkutora, murumbo maishandisechi, are they necessary? Or they are actually making it difficult for businesses to operate.
So it's the day is today. But Professor Mthuli Ncube will be announcing the 2025 national budget. We will get to discuss more after the presentation. That will be tomorrow.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Kudzie, for Business Focus. We appreciate.
Thank you, Tinashe.
Business Focus with Kudzie Sharara on the Champions League breakfast.
Capital 100.4 FM. Harare's heartbeat.